Have you ever felt invisible to the people you help the most? Have you ever canceled your own plans, sacrificed your sleep, ignored your own needs, just to be there for someone who forgets you exist the moment they get what they want? If you've felt this ache in your chest, if you've questioned your worth while giving everything to others, then stay with me, because this story might change how you see yourself forever. In a peaceful town surrounded by rolling green hills and quiet streets, there lived a man everyone knew and everyone called. His name was Daniel. If someone's car broke down, they shouted for Daniel. If someone needed groceries carried, they knocked on Daniel's door. If someone felt lonely at midnight, they rang Daniel's phone. And Daniel, he never said no, never hesitated, never made excuses. He always showed up with that warm smile and said those two words everyone loved to hear, "I am coming." People praised him constantly. They called him the kindest soul in town. They said the world needed more people like Daniel, and he believed them. He believed that helping others was his purpose, that saying yes made him valuable, that being available meant being loved. But here's what Daniel didn't realize while he was building everyone else's life. His own was crumbling. His garden was a mess of weeds and dying plants. 3 windows in his house were cracked, letting cold air seep through every night. The roof had missing tiles that leaked when it rained. His front fence leaned dangerously to one side. The paint on his walls was peeling. His own life was screaming for attention. But Daniel was too busy fixing everyone else's problems to notice his own. Every single night he came home covered in dust and sweat, exhausted to his bones. His mother would be waiting, watching him with those worried, tired eyes that only a mother has. Night after night, she asked him the same question. "Daniel, my son, you help the entire town. But tell me, who helps you? When was the last time someone fixed your fence? When was the last time someone brought you a meal? When was the last time anyone asked if you were okay?" Daniel would give her the same gentle smile, the same reassuring answer. "Don't worry, Mom, I'm fine. One day people will remember everything I've done for them. Kindness always comes back." But deep down, even Daniel was starting to doubt those words, because that day never seemed to come. Then came the storm. The evening started normal, but within an hour, the sky turned black. Heavy winds started howling through the streets. The whole town went into panic mode, rushing to secure their belongings before the storm hit. Daniel heard the commotion and immediately ran outside, but he didn't run to save his own things. That thought didn't even cross his mind. Instead, he sprinted straight to his neighbor Oliver's house. Oliver was struggling to move his expensive tools and equipment inside before the rain destroyed them. Daniel jumped in without being asked. Together they worked frantically, covering everything with tarps, dragging heavy boxes into the shed, securing doors and windows. They were moving so fast that Daniel completely forgot about his own home. His garden furniture was still outside. His plants were uncovered. His wooden boxes were wide open. His broken roof had no protection. And then the storm hit with full force. Rain poured down like someone had opened the sky. Wind tore through the town, knocking over anything that wasn't secured. By the time Daniel finished helping Oliver and ran back to his own house, it was too late. Everything was destroyed. His furniture was scattered across the yard, broken and soaked. His plants were uprooted and lying in puddles. Water was streaming through his damaged roof, flooding his living room. Years of neglect had finally caught up with him in one terrible night. Daniel stood there in the pouring rain, water dripping from his hair and clothes, staring at the destruction that was his life. He didn't cry. He just felt ... empty. Hollow, like something inside him had finally given up. His mother came out and placed a warm towel on his shoulders. She didn't scold him. She just said quietly, almost in a whisper, "Today you saved everyone's belongings. Daniel, everyone except your own." Those words hit him harder than the storm ever could. Something inside Daniel finally broke. Not in anger, but in realization. A painful, uncomfortable realization that he had been running away from for years. The next morning, tired and confused, Daniel walked to the edge of town where old Mr. Harris lived. Mr. Harris was a retired teacher who had spent 50 years teaching children, and now spent his days in a small cottage by the river, watching the water flow and welcoming anyone who needed wisdom. Daniel had heard that Mr. Harris had a way of seeing through problems that seemed impossible to solve. Daniel sat down on the bench beside the old man and let everything pour out. "Sir, I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. I help everyone who asks. I never refuse anyone. I give my time, my energy, everything I have, but I feel so empty inside. I feel tired, not just from work, but from people, from constantly being needed, but never being valued. Why does it feel like my kindness is slowly destroying me?" Mr. Harris didn't answer immediately. He just sat there, watching the river move gently past them. After a long silence, he pointed to the water. "Daniel, look at this river carefully. It gives water to the trees on both banks. It gives water to the birds and animals. It feeds the farms downstream. It serves everyone without asking for anything in return. Beautiful, isn't it? Daniel nodded. But tell me, Mr. Harris continued, what happens when it rains too much and the river forgets its path? What happens when the river has no boundaries? Daniel thought for a moment. It floods. It destroys the very things it was supposed to nourish. It becomes dangerous instead of helpful. Exactly right, Mr. Harris said, turning to look Daniel in the eyes. Kindness without boundaries becomes self-destruction. You are a kind man, Daniel, maybe the kindest in this town, but you have no limits. You run everywhere for everyone, but nowhere for yourself. You think saying no makes you a bad person, but that's the lie that's destroying you. Sometimes saying no is the most honest, most necessary form of... Daniel felt those words sink deep into his chest. Mr. Harris wasn't finished. For the next 7 days, I want you to try something different. When someone asks you for help, don't immediately say yes. Pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself one simple question: will helping this person right now harm me? Will I lose time I need for myself? Will I sacrifice peace I can't afford to lose? Will I neglect something important in my own life? If the answer is yes, then you say these 2 powerful words: not today. Can you do that? Daniel felt scared just thinking about it. What if people get angry? What if they think I've changed? What if they don't like me anymore? Mr. Harris smiled softly. Then you'll discover who truly cares about you and who only cares about what you can do for them. And that, my friend, is the most valuable lesson you'll ever learn. The next morning felt different. The air felt heavier. Around noon, Oliver came rushing to Daniel's door, just like always. Daniel, I need you right now. I have this massive box I need to move and I can't do it alone. Come on, let's go. Daniel looked at his broken fence that had been falling apart for months. Then he looked at Oliver. His heart wanted to say yes, like it always did. The word was right there on his tongue. But then he remembered Mr. Harris sitting by the river. He remembered the feeling of standing in the rain, staring at his destroyed home. He took a deep breath. Oliver, I'm sorry. Today I need to fix my own fence. I've been putting it off for too long. I can help you another day, but not today. The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. Oliver stared at him like he'd just spoken a foreign language. You're saying no? You never say no. What's wrong with you? Daniel's hands were shaking, but he held firm. Nothing's wrong. I just need to take care of my own things today. Oliver left looking upset, maybe even angry. Daniel felt a wave of guilt wash over him. What if Oliver told everyone? What if people thought he was selfish now? But instead of running after Oliver to apologize, Daniel picked up his tools and walked to that broken fence. And for the next several hours, he worked on his own property for the first time in months. When the sun started to set and that fence finally stood strong and straight, Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in years, not pride in helping someone else, but pride in taking care of himself. Day 2 brought more tests. 2 neighbors came asking for small favors: help with grocery bags, help fixing a wobbly chair. Each time Daniel felt that old urge to drop everything and run to help. But each time he remembered Mr. Harris's words. He politely explained that he was busy with his own work and couldn't help right then. The neighbors looked surprised, maybe a little annoyed, but they left. And that evening, instead of collapsing into bed exhausted and used, Daniel felt something: incredible peace. A quiet, gentle peace that filled his heart like warm light. Day 3 and 4 passed similarly. More requests, more gentle refusals. And with each no, Daniel felt lighter, freer, like he was slowly reclaiming pieces of himself that he'd given away for years. On day 5, the weather turned bad again. Dark clouds rolled in and heavy rain started falling. Daniel was working on repairing his damaged roof when he heard the water start dripping through the cracks. He looked outside at the empty street, waiting. Surely someone would come check on him. Surely someone would offer to help, the way he'd helped them countless times. He waited by the window, watching people rush to secure their own homes, but nobody came. Not one person knocked on his door. Not one person called his phone. Not one person even glanced toward his house. He could have felt angry, could have felt bitter, could have used this as proof that people only cared about themselves, but instead, Daniel felt something: unexpected strength, a quiet, powerful strength rising inside him. He picked up his tools, climbed back up to his damaged roof, and fixed it himself. It took hours. His muscles ached, his hands got blistered. Rain soaked through his clothes. But when he finally hammered that last nail into place and climbed down, he sat under his newly repaired roof and whispered to himself, "So this is what it feels like to depend on myself, to save myself." Days turned into weeks. Daniel continued his new path. He stopped running the moment someone called his name. He stopped sacrificing his sleep, his health, his peace for people who never thought twice about his well-being. He started waking up early to work in his garden. The weeds disappeared. Flowers bloomed. His house got cleaned and painted. His windows got fixed. Every day he invested time in himself, in his own space, in his own life, and then something unexpected happened. People started treating him differently. Oliver began solving his own problems instead of immediately calling Daniel. Neighbors stopped asking for help with every tiny thing. When people did ask for help now, they asked politely, even offering to return the favor. The town was still friendly, but Daniel was no longer seen as a tool everyone could use whenever convenient. Daniel's transformation was visible to everyone. His house looked beautiful now, maybe the best maintained in the neighborhood. His garden was lush and colorful. His eyes had light in them. He laughed easily and genuinely. Without that undercurrent of exhaustion, he walked with his shoulders back with confidence. He was no longer the man who was always available for everyone else. He was the man who valued himself. One sunny afternoon, Mr. Harris came to visit. He stood at Daniel's front gate, looking at the healthy plants, the fresh paint, the repaired fence, the neat yard. He saw Daniel working in the garden, humming quietly to himself, actually enjoying the work. Mr. Harris smiled and called out, "So, Daniel, tell me something. Did the world fall apart when you stopped saying yes to everyone? Did the town collapse? Did people hate you?" Daniel looked up, wiped the dirt from his hands, and smiled a real, deep smile that came from somewhere genuine inside him. "No, sir. Actually, something amazing happened. My world finally started coming together. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm actually living instead of just existing as everyone's backup plan." Mr. Harris walked closer and placed a gentle hand on Daniel's shoulder. "That's because you learned the most important lesson when you stop automatically saying yes to everyone else. You finally say yes to yourself. And that, my friend, is when your real life begins. Not the life others want from you. Your life." Daniel felt tears spring to his eyes, but they were good tears. Tears of relief, of release, of finally understanding. "I spent so many years thinking that my worth came from how useful I was to others. I thought love meant always being available. I thought kindness meant having no boundaries, but I was wrong. I was so wrong." Mr. Harris nodded. "You're one of the lucky ones, Daniel. You learned it while you still have time to live differently." As the sun began to set over the town, Daniel looked around at his transformed home and transformed life. He thought about all the years he'd wasted running to everyone else while neglecting himself. He thought about all the times he thought about how close he'd come to losing himself completely, but now he understood. Boundaries weren't walls that kept people out. They were bridges that honored both himself and others. Saying no wasn't selfish shit, was self-respect, and true kindness included being kind to yourself. So let me ask you now, friendar, you, Daniel, do you give until there's nothing left? Do you say yes when everything inside you is begging you to stop? Do you feel guilty every time you think about your own needs? Do you measure your worth by how much you can do for others? If you do, hear this truth: no does not make you selfish. It makes you wise. It makes you strong. It means you're choosing peace over pressure, boundaries over burnout, self-respect over self-destruction. Your time is valuable. Your energy is precious. Your peace is sacred. Your heart is worth protecting. Don't wait for a storm to destroy your life before you learn to save yourself. Don't wait until you're empty to realize you can't pour from an empty cup. Start today. Start now. Learn to pause before you say yes. Learn to honor your own needs. Learn that being kind to yourself is not selfish, it's necessary. Because the world will only respect you when you start respecting yourself. People will only value your time when you show them it's valuable. And your life will only feel like your own when you stop living it for everyone else. Be kind, yes. Be helpful, absolutely. But be wise enough to know that you cannot save everyone, and you were never meant to. The only person you're truly responsible for saving is yourself, and that's not selfish. That's survival. That's wisdom. That's the beginning of a life that actually belongs to you. Remember Daniel's story? Remember the man who helped everyone but forgot himself? Until he finally learned that the most important person he needed to help was looking back at him in the mirror every single day?